Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Abdullah Al Andalusi. I wanted to talk about some of the recent developments that most of you probably have been aware of. There's been race riots in the UK, initiated by a number of some would say far-right pundits, and many people besides that, news channels. I would argue GB News, Talk TV, Nigel Farage, and others. Of course, in the middle of the storm, we see Tommy Robinson, who talked about in previous diatribes that he would, if there was a war happening, he would fight right in the very front lines. And then he promptly left the UK right after these riots were started. These are the usual suspects, but I suppose what many people didn't anticipate was Andrew Tate chiming in. Now, Andrew Tate, as many of you know, he's perhaps deemed by many to be controversial for some of his arguments about men and women and the feminism and masculinity, and some have deemed him to be part of the Red Pill movement. What people didn't expect was Andrew Tate to come in support of these race riots, arguing that there was some reason, there was a justified reason behind these people's expression of anger at immigration policies. He said that the unfortunate stabbings that occurred in Southport, where three young girls were tragically murdered by an individual, was the result of an illegal immigrant doing these things. And of course, Tommy Robinson and others has intimated that this person, or at least implied this person, could be also a Muslim as well, and that you can't believe anything what the media tell you anymore. So if people suspect that this person was an illegal immigrant who was Muslim, then he must indeed be so, because Tommy Robinson had thus spoken. And Andrew Tate also said that it was an illegal immigrant. And then Nigel Farage recently pointed out that when he was challenged over his remarks to say this person was a legal immigrant, when it turned out to be actually not an illegal immigrant, but a person that came from a Christian Rwandan family, that he got his information from Andrew Tate. So why is Andrew Tate chiming in on this? What's going on? Why is Andrew Tate speaking positively about Tommy Robinson, a person who has publicly stated on the record, quite vocally, in an interview he had with Piers Morgan 7 years ago? He said that the Quran was a violent and cursed book. The same book that Andrew Tate lovingly read when he was in his prison cell, and something that he believed converted him to Islam, and that persuaded him to the truth of Islam. So what's going on here? How do we understand Andrew Tate's diatribes, I believe? I think, and unfortunately must say it's a diatribe, because Andrew Tate was waxing lyrical from his car in an infamous viral video that he talked about that the anti-immigration riots about people who've had enough of immigrants being foisted upon them without their consent, and then he likened these rioters to people as Palestinians defending their land against illegal occupation. What's gone terribly wrong, unfortunately, with Andrew Tate? Now, I'm an individual who's made some excuses for Andrew Tate when he professes Islam, as I would make for anyone who publicly professes their shahada. That on the time they say their shahada, they testify that there is only one God worthy of worship, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his prophet and messenger and slave. I would make excuses for everyone, and I have. I've made excuses for example, Sinead O'Connor, who converted to Islam. Sadly, she passed. Allah yarhamu. She has had a troubled past. She continued to have troubles and difficulties and challenges, and I made excuses for her that she's a Muslim. And we should always make excuses. Husn al-dhan. Likewise for Andrew Tate, when he became Muslim, initially when he became Muslim, before anything else that would come afterwards, I likewise ask that we be consistent and make the same excuses for Andrew Tate too. That he's become Muslim, so everything he said in the past is forgiven. All his misdeeds are forgiven. He has a blank slate, and that, of course, we should give him that same latitude we'd give to any new Muslim. Of course, recently there's been some other controversies that might not be well known. My colleague Jake, otherwise known as Jake, the metaphysician, he raised a point that Andrew Tate decided to show solidarity with his own brother, Tristan Tate, and went to a Christian church service at night, holding a candle where they were worshipping Jesus. Now, as anyone knows who's a Muslim, we don't worship Jesus. We love Jesus. We consider him to be a prophet, Messiah, messenger of God, but not God himself. It's quite a very serious crime to participate in a worship of Jesus. And of course, Tristan Tate said, what's the problem with this? During Ramadan, I fast along with my brother in sympathy, a few days maybe, in sympathy with my brother who's Muslim. And I say, well, yeah, fasting is one thing, But you don't go into the mosque and pray Muslim prayers or testify the Shahada, would you? Right? You don't go and you pray and you prostrate to the Salah. If during the Christian Lent, which most of you probably might not know about, who are not Christian, Lent, when you give up something for Lent, for example, it's a Christian festival around Easter time. If Andrew Tate did that, that would be problematic, but not full on shirk. All right, shirk is when you're actually lighting a candle when you attend a ceremony, attend an event where they're praising Jesus and you participate in that. That is very, very serious. Now, if I'm going to put Husn al-Dhan aside for 1 second, Husn al-Dhan is the Islamic practice where, as Muslims, we make excuses for our brothers and sisters when they appear to be doing bad things or they do things which are a mistake. And we say, well, maybe they didn't know better, maybe they're ignorant, maybe they're struggling, maybe they have challenges that we don't see. I want to put that aside to maybe proffer a potential explanation for Andrew Tate's behavior. And I say this not to condemn Andrew Tate or to cancel him or to have everyone ignore him or throw him out the fold and not consider him to be a Muslim. No, I say this primarily as an advice to Andrew Tate, to help him actually. I wanted to help him become a better Muslim. If you want to judge who someone worships, you find out what they're the most consistent with. What someone is the most consistent with is what they worship. That's their God. Maybe not in a literal sense they pray to it, but it's what they God. So maybe it's money for some people. Maybe it's fame for other people. Maybe it's themselves, the narcissists. I would say with Andrew Tate's God that he maybe unwittingly worships or unknowingly worships. He worships knowingly, but doesn't know that that he puts on this pedestal of being an ilah. And in Arabic, the word ilah doesn't mean something that you consider to be an actual God, but you treat it as an absolute principle above all other things. I believe that Andrew Tate worships the God of masculinity because that's the one principle that he's been the most consistent on throughout. And not a Islamic conception of masculinity or some kind of universal understanding that everyone agrees on. No, obviously a very Western-centric understanding, a very Western-defined concept of masculinity. How the West imagines men to act, he praises this. This explains his behavior quite well. He praises Trump, despite Trump's ludicrous statements over the years, involving use of bleach to treat COVID, Muslim ban on immigration, support for Israel and its massacring of the Palestinians, arguably. Andrew Tate, despite that, Andrew Tate supports Donald Trump. Why? Because he says Donald Trump is the masculine candidate. He represents masculinity. That's what we need. Why did he like Islam? Why did Andrew Tate like Islam? Well, look at what he says about it. He says, because Islam is a masculine religion. It puts these red lines that you can't cross, these things you have to respect. The Creator says these commands, you must follow these things. There are things that you cannot accept, red lines that you can't cross. Islam maintains these red lines, whereas Christianity, he believes, has become liberalized or feminized or what have you. It doesn't have any red lines. You can do what you want, believe what you want, and tolerate all kinds of things, including blasphemies and things like this. So you see how he describes the benefits of what attracted him to Islam. Is not Islam is true. Islam is the truth. Although he might have said that, but it was noticeable when he said it as it's masculine. It's a masculine religion. It has these masculine virtues. But unfortunately, I wish he even followed those virtues because the red line is no shirk, no attending worship gatherings, worshipping anything other than the Creator, the one and only Creator, who's not a man, is not in a part of a partnership of three beings, is not a creature, it transcends all created things. He didn't maintain that red line. Just to sort of show solidarity to his brother, he crossed that red line. Tommy Robinson attacks Islam, attacks the Quran, the book that Andrew Tate says he believes in. And yeah, Andrew Tate crosses that red line, supports Tommy Robinson. The fact that Tommy Robinson has been indicted in court as lying and in making propaganda, anti-Muslim propaganda, does not faze Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate views these people as against this system, this liberal and feminist system, the Matrix. And because they are fighting this system and they're fighting it with violence, a masculine trait, apparently, he supports them, I suspect, because of that, because they are fighting against the system. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that is why he's adopting positions that no Muslim would sanely adopt. He's also done many things, said many things, used the PAKI word to refer to people who are Asian or Muslim in some circumstances, things that we would not accept as Muslims. Islam has an absolute. The absolute is the creator of the universe. It's not masculinity. Masculinity, as Islam understands it, is merely the aptitude and the capacity of a Muslim man to fulfill his duties as a Muslim man. But masculinity is not something that transcends Islam. Islam transcends masculinity. Masculinity is defined by Islam. And so I think my message to Andrew Tate and any of those people who still might support him from the Muslim community is that masculinity is not a god. Masculinity is a concept of the male role, but men are a subset of humans, and humans are fallible, weak creatures who are dependent and prone to tons of mistakes. And in fact, we are having short lifespans, and we will weaken and become decrepit if those of us that are able to reach old age. No matter how tough, how ripped you are of a man, you'll become an old senile person with prostate cancer. And that might be the best outcome of all the possible outcomes that can happen to men as they get older. So man is weak. Men are weak. Mankind is weak. Women, like men, are again weak as well. So let's not prop up one sex above the other in terms of holding to high esteem or believing that there is an essential subjection. The question in Islam is, we all, as Muslims, all of us, men and women, are subjected to Islam. We are subjected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what he has ordained on us as how to submit to him. This is what we subject ourselves to, which involves gender roles, yes, which involves that men have a degree of authority in the family and so on and so forth. But we do so, we believe in this because it is ordained by the creator of the universe, not because we believe in masculinity or what have you. And for those of you who might question that, well, Andrew Tate attacks feminism, isn't that a good thing? I've criticized feminism very strongly. I've debated feminists. I've written some of the first articles criticizing feminism from a Islamic lens from amongst the Duat community in the UK. So I've certainly have a history of it, and I've criticized it very vociferously. In fact, I've outed people as contradicting Islam who profess feminism from the Muslim community. And the very fact that I'm here criticizing Andrew Tate is me to show I'm trying to be consistent, is that the red pill or masculinism can suffer the same problems, or in fact comes from the same root problems as feminism, the idea of sovereignty of the individualism. They just come in, individualism just comes in these two flavors, female individualism or male individualism. They're both from the same kufr, that is a disbelieving origin, which is the idea that the individual is sovereign over themselves and independent and so on. Humans are not independent, and we're certainly not sovereign over ourselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God is sovereign over us. And it is my sincere advice to everyone who follows Andrew Tate, but more specifically to Andrew Tate himself, that he realizes who the true God is and who is truly worthy of our worship. Jazakallah khairan for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.